Okay, guys, welcome to episode 5 of That's Cooked with Steph Delanda. As you can see, I lied last week. We have Halloween still. I held on for one more week of Halloween because as of this recording, it's only the 1st of November. Halloween was last night. I'm not ready to let go of it yet. We have things to discuss. I have to tell you guys about my Halloween. I want to know about your Halloween. I want to tell you about my new favorite movies. My world has been changed in the last few weeks in the cinema space because I can't watch movies ever. I really have always struggled. Like, my entire life, I struggle to watch movies. And then all of a sudden recently, I've just gone, you know what? I'm going to put more of a vested effort into watching cinema. And this is completely insane. And there's just no other way to say this that doesn't sound wanky. But I grew up with a movie theater in my house and I never watched movies. So, like, I didn't even go in there, really. Like, maybe once a year I would go in the movie room. And all my friends would come over and be like, you have this in your house and you don't use it? And I'm just like, I just don't really give a fuck. But as I've gotten older, I've realized that I think I'm missing out. So I will be watching more movies. And I wanted to let you guys know about my latest obsession. And this is the way that it goes for me, right? This is the way that it goes for me is how do I put this? Because I don't watch many things and because I don't like many things, when I find something that I like, I go all in. Like, all in. Like, Taken is the best movie I've ever seen. Prison Break is the best TV show ever made. The Grinch is the best movie I've ever seen. Then Brokeback Mountain is the best movie I've ever seen. And then, like, no matter what I'm doing, what I'm watching, if I like it, best thing I've ever seen. If I liked the restaurant, best restaurant I've ever been to. It's the way I am. I'm a very passionate person. It's a good thing and a bad thing in a lot of ways. But so it means that if I like something, I tend to really like it. So, because I love Mario, I really love Mario. Because I like hockey, I fucking love the Nashville Predators. You know, I don't kind of half do any of it. I either don't care for it or I'm obsessed. And last year for Halloween, I spent it with Bronson Reed and his beautiful wife, Paige. And how do you put it? Why am I having a meltdown today? We handed out candy to children last year, which was really fun. We dressed up. I dressed up as Beetlejuice, which was great. Same thing. I watched Beetlejuice for the first time last year. So then all of a sudden I'm like, oh my God, Beetlejuice is the best thing I've ever seen. And now I'm in love with Beetlejuice. And I watched it for the first time in 2022. So much so that Matt and I were meant to be on a show in the UK in Halloween weekend, October 28th. Matt and I were meant to be in the UK and the show got cancelled. But we had Beetlejuice gear designed for that because Matt messaged me and he goes, how do you feel about purple and green gear? And I said, ew. No offense to anyone out there that has purple and green gear. It's just not, I don't really like it. It's not my combo. Anyways, purple and green gear. And then I said, because I knew, like, there's the art of the compromise, right? So I go, I'll wear purple and green if we do Beetlejuice for Halloween. Because I wanted to shoehorn in what I wanted to do. So I was like, this is the perfect opportunity. So he goes, okay. He's like, okay. Yeah, we'll do we can do Beetlejuice, let's do Beetlejuice. And I was like, fucking oath. So we got it designed. Design looked awesome. Sorry, my cat's eating in the background if you guys can hear it. Design looked awesome. I was so fucking excited. And then all of a sudden, just the show goes up in smoke. One PW went under, which I kind of thought was going to happen. But anyways, needless to say, I didn't get rebooked for a show. Matt had NWA, I think. So we had to poo-poo the whole idea, which is so frustrating because I really wanted to wear it. But whatever, it is what it is. Anyways, this year, where did I get? Oh, Beetlejuice. Wow, wasn't that a tangent? I'm so sorry about my ADHD just taking us on a different ride. Last year, and Paige had said to me multiple times, look, I've got a cross, by the way. Bling. Paige has said to me multiple times, you need to watch Nightmare Before Christmas. You're going to love it. It's the best movie ever. You need to watch it. And me being me, I was like, sure I do. Sure I do. Right? I'm not going to watch it. Because I thought I hated animation. And I guess I do. But I don't know what kind of animation that is. Because that's cool. And I thought I hated animation. And then I love Ninja Turtles. So I'm like, maybe I don't hate it. And also The Grinch is my favorite movie. But I guess that was live action. So that's not really animation. But anyways. But then this year, a few days ago, I watched Nightmare Before Christmas. And I think I was just in the perfect mode of like chilling, if you know what I mean. Very relaxed, ready to watch something creative, ready to get lost in a great film. Then I sit down and I put on Nightmare Before Christmas and I'm just like, I'm literally sitting there being like, this is a fucking banger. All of these songs are bangers. I was like, I texted Indy and I said, maybe I like musicals, and I thought I didn't because she's always loved musical movies and I've always thought I hated musicals. But now I'm like, do I like animation? Do I like musicals? Like my brain really took to the fact that I could sing along with the soundtrack. Like the fact that every 5 or 10 minutes I could start singing. I think my brain was like, oh, this is fucking great. So then, of course, I buy the Nightmare Before Christmas t-shirt. I get a Nightmare Before Christmas mug. I've made 4 other people watch parts of the movie. Like, I'll YouTube the video. Like, this is how psycho I am. I'll be like, hey, friend, do you know the Oogie Boogie Man by any chance? And they're like, no, what's that? I'm like, well, sit on my couch and I'm going to YouTube the Oogie Boogie song. And you're going to have to sit there and watch the Oogie Boogie Man for me. And I'm going to sit there and stare at you and make sure you enjoy it as much as I did. And I'll give you the whole rundown of where the Oogie Boogie Man came from. It's like, that's so excessive. Why don't you just enjoy something? Why are we forcing everyone else into this shit? Anyways, so that's been me with the Nightmare Before Christmas. It's been great. And then today, but it kind of has to wait for next week. But I'll give you a precursor for what today started. My favorite movie of all time. Since I was a child, since I watched it for the very first time, it's never changed. My favorite movie of all time since I was a child is The Grinch. The Jim Carrey one. Holy shit. Best movie ever. Anyone close to me in my life knows how much I love The Grinch. As I explained before, if I love something, I really love it. And everyone knows about it. So, today I went to the store and bought a whole bunch of Grinch paraphernalia for 50% off. Bought a whole sack of Grinch shit. And I made a bargain with myself. Because as I said of today, it's now November 1st. I bargained with myself and I said, I'm not saying this because I don't enjoy doing this podcast, because I do. Of course, I enjoy doing this podcast. But I will say is, no matter how much you enjoy your work, it's still work. And I think anyone who is a content creator can attest to that. Anyone who creates any sort of content for social media, anyone who makes reels, anyone who is a YouTuber, who has a podcast, whose social media is part of their job or whatever. Like, so many people, I feel like even people who don't work in the internet, I think can attest to the fact of like, even if you love something, if you do it now as a job every day, or this is your income, or this is now not something that you choose to do for fun, but something that you are obliged to do for your business, I think it becomes work, you know? And I think that happens with wrestling too. Like, I know even happened for me. Like, I know there's some times when you wrestle and you're really excited. And then there's other times where you are just like, you just are clocking in. And I'm not saying you're phoning it in. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying your performance is lower, or your effort or your care or anything like that. I'm just saying sometimes you're genuinely sitting there going, I'm so excited about this weekend. And then sometimes you're sitting there going, fuck, a weekend in the house with the cats would be nice. You know what I mean? And I feel like that's normal and that's okay. I think it's like weirdly like lying to yourself and lying to everyone. Like, it's not natural for anyone, no matter what you're doing. I don't think it's natural to sit there and go, fuck yeah, I fucking love this all day, every day. I love it so much. This is the best thing ever. Like, there's never a day that I wish I wasn't. Like, fuck. Okay, robot. But sometimes it's nice to like sleep in and put on like a hoodie and your fluffy socks and sit on the couch and go, fuck yeah, what movie are we watching? And I think that's like such a dangerous balance, because once you get a hint of that, then you go, fuck, this is nice. And I feel like we see it again and again, over and over and over. And I think this is something that I've thought about now being back in a relationship, because I was in a relationship and then I was single, and I've been single pretty much the entire, I would say the last year, really. So there's been a nice correlation between I'm single, I'm on my bullshit, the only person I have to think about or care about is myself. I've dealt with all my baggage, and I mean, no one's ever dealt with everything, but I have worked on myself enough to the point where I'm like really happy and stable by myself, and I'm not looking for fulfillment from another person or validation or from a job or from whatever else, because, and I think this is something too that like, I don't know if anyone really talks about, but it's initially an ego hit when you get released by WWE. And maybe not everyone feels like that, but it definitely felt like that to me for a little bit, because it's a hard thing to wrap your head around, going, I am wrestling for WWE, which is the company that I dreamed of working for my entire life and career. And I'm wrestling on the USA Network and in front of all of these people. And I come backstage and Shawn Michaels is sitting to the left of me, giving me match feedback and telling me I did a good job. I went from that to then 30 days later, I'm wrestling in a ring in like bumfuck Texas in front of 200 people. And like half of them don't know who I am. And it's just such a like hard thing to wrap your head around. It can be. So then it's like I went through that for sure. Yeah, to go from that like knee-jerk jolt of like, oh, fuck, we're back on the indies now. Fuck, okay. So I kind of dealt with that, dealt with being single again and all of that, and then got to a really good place. And now being back in a relationship, it's like, okay, like, I still need to make sure that, and everyone's priorities change constantly, right? But I have been on such a roll with my career for the last year that, like, you still have to be cognizant of, I still need to think the same way and make the same kind of like decisions and still prioritize the same things that I was prioritizing before. It's so easy to get sucked into the comfortability of like, oh, well, we'll just wrestle where it's convenient, or we'll just wrestle at the places that'll take both of us, or don't worry, we don't need to go to the gym anymore. Like, we can order in. Let's order in again. Fuck the gym. We would rather hang out. Like, I'm not going to be on my phone doing social media as much because, you know, I'm not on my phone anymore because I'm so happy to spend time with you, which is what it is. But I'm like, shit, okay, I still need to make sure that, like, wrestling and my job and, like, as I said, social media even being a big part of it, like, kind of what I was talking about before, like, it's not just this fun, like, oh, I'm on Instagram and here's a photo of the ice cream that I ate. It becomes this, like, structured, methodical, like and I'm not even that big on social media, honestly, but like the people that are like famous on TikTok and famous on Instagram, like with millions of followers or whatever else, it's like, it's so much more structured than people realize. Like, they have a fucking team doing their shit for them, and you're posting at 9 a.m. and then 4 p.m. for this, and then this and this and this and this, and everything is scheduled, everything's laid out. It's like clockwork. But that's the thing, is like, all of that kind of shit, it takes time and self-discipline as well. And if that's something that you lack or you struggle with, like for me, I struggle with procrastination. So being self-employed, which is now what I am, and running my own businesses through wrestling independently, my podcast, my makeup line, all of my merchandise, my online stores, like everything across the board, it's like, now this is my job. And I feel like people don't realize as well, like I ship out my own orders. I don't have someone that, and sometimes I've had a bit of help with shipping stuff, but for the most part, I don't have someone sitting in a factory processing my orders 24/7 and packing them and sending them and whatever. Like, I've got to sit down, I've got to sign everything, I've got to pack it, I've got to get it all together, I've got to get my special printer, print out all the fucking labels, take it to the post office. Like, that's a job. And now that I'm getting more orders, which is great, it's more money, which is great. But then also your workload increases, because now all of a sudden I have to go to the post office twice a week instead of once, you know? Or like, okay, cool, now I'm going to expand my lipstick line. Okay, well, that's more money that we're going to have to pay up front, and we have to spend more time sitting down and choosing the shades, and, you know, that's more shit, more merch that I have to bring to shows. Like, I got my new Bendies, which I'm going to film a separate unboxing for the Bendies, which is really exciting. But for the Bendies, right? I'm like, fuck yeah, I got my Bendies. And now I'm like, okay, shit, I have to take them to the shows. Of course, I brought them to sell at the merch table, which is to make more money at the merch table, which I will. But I have to now carry another bag. And I've got to pay, like, sometimes it's $100 for an extra bag. So, like, for Matt to travel and he has like 4 or 5 bags with him, it's expensive, and it's also a fucking pain in the ass carrying that much stuff around. Flip side of that is, he's the indie god and he makes more money off merchandise than anyone else that I know. So your effort matches your rewards. And I feel like that's true with wrestling in every single way. Like, the most successful people on the indies especially are the people that are working the hardest. And I think that is because like when you're at WWE, you can only control so much. There's only so much you can do. But now being on the indies, and I guess also for people in AEW, but I'm just talking about being independent, you like the sky's the limit. It's the age of TikTok. It's 2023. It's the age of social media. It's the age of self-promotion and people being their own bosses. And there's never been more ways to make money from inside your own home and all of those things. And all of the people that are succeeding are capitalizing on all of those things. It's not enough to just be good at wrestling. And like if you, and who the fuck am I to say that, right? Because no one has the answers. Wrestling is so subjective that it's like, okay, well then the next question is who's the top wrestlers on the indies? Who I think is going to be different to who you think, is going to be different who they think, is going to be different to what the PWI fucking 500 says. Like, it's so subjective. But in my opinion, if you look at who I think are the biggest stars on the indies, and by biggest stars, in my opinion, I'm rating that of like how many places they're wrestling, how often they're booked, how much money they're making, how much merch they're selling, how many people are talking about them online. Like, you know, there's certain criteria what kind of places they're wrestling at, like all of that kind of stuff, right? In my opinion, there's this common thread of like most of the most over people are utilizing social media correctly. Most of the most over people are capitalizing on their merchandise game and their meet and greets, and they're charging people to take photos with them, and they're not letting people undercut them, and they're selling merch online. They've got a whole merch store set up. They cut promos. They understand like the value of speaking and getting people out there and making sure people hear you and all of that. And again, as I said, who the fuck am I to say any of these things? But if anyone were to ask me my opinion on like one sentence, what's one thing that you would tell up and coming wrestlers that who are trying to like break out or quote unquote make it or get over or whatever the fuck it is, to me it's more than just being, it's about more than just being a good wrestler. And again, I think if you asked Matt, he would probably say something similar. If you asked Effie, he would say something similar. Maki Ito, like the people who I think are killing it the most right now, I think they would say the same thing. And I think as well, which I find very interesting, is whenever I speak to people who are in high positions at WWE, they always say the same thing. And I think like I remember even hearing that like a few years ago, maybe at my tryout. So then I understood at least the importance of being able to speak. I always knew I was confident speaking because I enjoyed public speaking as a kid. So I always kind of knew that wasn't like a stress for me, but I still I wouldn't feel comfortable if you put a microphone in front of me and said speak. Whereas now I'm like, give me the mic. Put the mic in front of me. Like now I've gotten so comfortable with a microphone to the point where like Matt and I go out to speak and we just look at each other and go, no, see you out there. Like I don't think about what I'm going to say anymore. Whereas before I would literally write out a minute of a promo and go over it and over it and over it and over it. I don't do that anymore. And what do you know? All of a sudden my performance is so much more natural and so much more authentic. I feel connected to what I'm saying. I believe in what I'm saying. Whereas I feel like when it's too like micromanaged, I don't know, sometimes the delivery gets lost. I mean, I know for me it did. Like you rep it out so much that you're on take 15 and you're like, I feel like a fucking zombie. I haven't eaten for 6 hours. I've said that we've done 15 takes for some reason, even though it was fine. Like, fuck. I'm giving you what I've got left and it's not much. But yeah, I don't know. That's kind of what I would give if someone was asking for my advice. And that's the thing too, is like, I'm not, and Matt and I talk about this all the time. Like, we are not the kind of wrestlers. And even honestly, even before I met Matt, I would have this kind of mentality. And I think that's why we get along well, is because we're also a similar kind of wrestler. It's like, I'm never going to tell you how to do a drop down leapfrog or a headlock takeover correctly, because that's not my specialty. And I'm not saying I'm not good at wrestling, because I know I am great at wrestling, but that is not where my value is. I think like my value is in my presence and my package and how I look and the way that I carry myself and the way I present myself and the intimidation and like all of that kind of stuff, rather than actually like whatever running spot that I've planned in my match. Like I think that, and almost what happens in the ring becomes secondary, because everything else is like, that's what the package is. That's what we're here to see. Like that's what we know SDL for. And we want that. And I think that's something that I learned from Matt. And that's the thing, is like, I can never put into words how much I've learned from working with him, because it's just the most subtle sprinkle, like the final fucking 5% that you think you know how to wrestle and you think you have it all figured. Well, you don't think. I never have. I mean, I'm sure sometimes I've thought I have it all figured out, but I'd say I'm at least pretty self-aware enough to know there's always a lot more to be learned. But just when you start to think that you're getting it, so you're in a different environment, or you're getting taught by different people, or you're picking things up, or whatever it is. And how I look at it is leveling up. But as soon as you start to feel comfortable, something happens and you're straight back into learning again, and your perception of things changing, and how you think wrestling should be today is going to be different to how you think it should be next year and the year after and whatever else. And it's like, that's really cool, because to me that means that you're constantly growing and evolving and changing, and like you do whatever you're doing and you get here and you nail that, but then it gets harder. So then you're struggling again, and then you go up to here and you nail that, and then you just keep climbing and climbing and climbing, and then all of a sudden you're a better performer, you're a better athlete, you're calmer under pressure, you can hold yourself better, like whatever else it is. More opportunities come your way because people can feel that confidence and sense that confidence, and the only way you can get there is by repeatedly putting yourself in uncomfortable situations. Like my entire career has been uncomfortable situations, and everything that I was terrified of, on the back end of it, I go, that was one of the best things I've ever done. That was the best thing for my career. Like the feeling of accomplishment, but also like the idea that nothing good comes easy. Like if you get something really, really quickly or really easily without having to really work for it, it's probably not going to be that good. But if you've actually put in the effort and gone through the steps and gone through the uncomfortableness of like growing and leveling up and being uncomfortable and feeling out of your depth and feeling like you don't know what you're doing and XYZ, like if you're never in that position, it's like then you'll stay stagnant. But also if you do get thrown in the deep end at some point, you've got no resolve, you've got no skills that you can refer back to. You know, even, and I'm not talking about physical skills, I'm talking about like these mental lessons that when you really fucking grind, and like those, everyone has different like parts of their life where they've learnt that kind of stuff from. But for me, a lot of it comes from like my earliest days in wrestling training, when like just certain situations, and I just go, if I could do that, nothing I ever do now is going to be as fucked up as that was. And, you know, I don't really know, like, I'm never doing 500 squats ever again. My knees are fucked. Like, everyone's knees are fucked. We're all adults now. We're all wrestlers. Let's save our knees. We don't need to do 500 squats. That's just my personal opinion. But, you know, I did all that kind of stuff during my training, is like to break us in and whatever else, I guess, because we had like, influences from different places. But it, as I said, it doesn't teach you anything physically, but I guess I will say I did learn mental lessons from being like that deep in it, and the deep waters, and like feeling like you're going to die, but not stopping. I don't know. I think there's something to be said for like pushing further than you think you can, even if it's like, I don't know. Because I refer back to those moments so much, you know, like I feel like I've got a pretty good, like if you've been through enough, and I'm not even just talking about physically anymore with wrestling. I'm talking about life in general. Like the more hard shit that you've dealt with, you then have better coping skills, and you've got more tools to refer to if you're in a fucked up situation again. Whereas like, if you've never really had to struggle much, or you've never put yourself in those like uncomfortable positions, then when you're in it, you don't know what the fuck to do. Or then when something bad happens to you, you don't know how to fucking recover from it because you've never had to deal with this before. Whereas like if you are someone that has dealt, and sometimes it's unfortunate because sometimes it's not a choice and it's someone's been getting dealt a pretty hard fucking hand. But what I will say is people that have been through hard things, no matter what way, I feel like they come out the other end usually, obviously stronger, but also a little bit more appreciative for what they do have and for the little things and all of that. And also like don't sweat the small stuff as much. I don't know. It's a lot to think about. I kind of went off on a lot of different tangents tonight. I don't even know what the fuck I was planning on talking about, to be honest with you. I don't think... Today my friend was like, what do you do? Like, how do you come up with what you're going to talk about in your podcast? I'm like, I don't think about it at all. I just start speaking. Maybe that's good. Maybe that's bad. Maybe this isn't what you guys wanted from That's Cooked. But I used to be very open about who I am. And then I stopped being like that for a few years. And I don't know. I just kind of realized that's what you guys want from me. And that's what resonates. And that's what is refreshing. And there's not many people doing stuff like that. So thank you for coming along with this ride. On this ride? With this? I don't know. Coming along with me on this ride. We're going to keep doing the thing every week. I'm going to get some travel microphones so we can get on the road with this bitch and get some more guests on. Until now, goodbye Halloween. Next week, though, Grinchmas in this motherfucker. All right, until next time, that's cooked.